So, good morning, everyone, again. Today's webinar will be to present a partner product solver. Okay, and we have as well with us Matthias Frank, who will be showing the product high-level presentation of the product, which is Solver Guys 360. And he will introduce us as well a little bit about the company profile, what type of product, and show us what are the advantage on the products that they are offering. As well, we will see as well some offering after this webinar, some special offering with some special discount. Okay, only for the attendees of this webinar. So we will leave it. I will leave it to Matthias. Okay, and later on, please, if you have any question, please tell us at the end, or just put it in the chat, and we will be glad later on to have a Q&A session to answer you. And if you want more detail about the presentation, of course, you can coordinate directly with the sales manager, with the country sales manager, to schedule a detailed document about the product. Matthias, I will leave it to you now. And thanks again for attending and presenting your system and product.
Thank you very much, Tony. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. I will mute myself and you can go on.
Okay, so thank you very much, and hello everyone. My name is Matthias. I'm based in Sweden. I'm the sales manager for our product Solver in EMEA, so Europe and Middle East. I will present to you today our solution for reporting, budgeting, forecasting, and consolidation for SAP, but I will focus mostly on the planning part, so mostly around budgeting and forecasting. I will be ready in about 35 minutes from now, so that will allow for questions at the end if needed. So I will do my best so everything is ready about 10 to 12 your time. So let me start with introducing the solutions we provide with Solver. So it is a CPM solution, and CPM stands for Corporate Performance Management, which will include the 3 boxes below. So the platform Solver is used to implement solutions for reporting with pre-built connectors for both Business One SQL, Business One HANA, and by design HANA. We can also offer planning, which means normally budgeting and forecasting. And you can also use it for consolidations according to IFRS or US GAAP. So it is a platform that can support either each and every one of the 3 boxes, or of course 2 or 3 of them. So basically with one solution, you can scale and have one solution for both reporting, budgeting, and consolidations. Of course, you don't have to use all 3, you can use just 1 or 2 of them, but it's very important that it's one and the same platform for all 3 applications. And we say that this is a finance application, even though there is technology in the background, of course, with functions and features. The solutions are normally being used and owned by the finance department. Of course, local cost center or department managers can be users in the system, but the applications is normally owned and managed by the finance department, because these are normally finance processes, and that's why the system is a system for finance users. Based on Microsoft technology, it runs in the cloud in Microsoft Azure. You can run it on premise on SQL Server, and as you will see, there are many similarities for the end user interface as Excel, but of course it's not Excel. We just use it for designing templates, as you will see. Solver is a global organization. We have 3 main locations: US, of course, where product development is being done, also managing North and South America. The hub we are in is, of course, EMEA. As I mentioned, I'm the manager for this region. We have subsidiaries in Europe, and we're actually opening up a subsidiary in Dubai. The plan is to do that for this year, but we have existing partners, of course, and we also have existing customers in the region if any type of reference would be needed. And normally, before the current situation, I used to be in the region 4 to 5 times a year, traveling down, establishing the local presence that we're aiming for. The third hub is in Asia. That's handling Australia, New Zealand, and of course, the Southeast Asia. So from a technology point of view, I will not go more into detail than this, but I just want to tell you that the platform is a cloud-based solution, including a data warehouse. So the center in every solution we provide is that we have a cloud-based or on-premise data warehouse to which we upload data from source systems. And we have pre-built connector for Business One SQL, Business One HANA by design, and of course, generic connectors, for instance, from SQL, file, or cloud, which means that you can import and combine data in the data warehouse from multiple data sources. Everything that's uploaded to the data warehouse, normally once every night, can be used in the reports, either for financial reports, consolidated reports, operational reports, but of course also for budgeting and forecasting templates. So this is where I will have most of the focus today. We're also offering a connector to Power BI for dashboards and analytics. So anyone that want to use any type of analytics on top of the data warehouse can do that in Power BI, and we're also releasing a connector for Tableau. But that is not what I will focus on today. I will focus on CPM and budgeting and forecasting. Very important is that the solution we are offering are normally being used by top management, but of course also being distributed to the wider audience or a bit larger user group. So basically anyone with any type of responsibility in an organization, such as department managers, can be users in the system, reporting on top of their entity or their department or their sales responsibility, etc. In the data warehouse, we of course have a lot of functionality for creating hierarchies, currency conversions, eliminations if we talk about consolidations, allocations if we talk about budgeting and forecasting. So in the data warehouse, we like to call that there's also a process engine for handling advanced processes if needed. And I will show you a few examples on this very shortly. Of course, also in the solution, we have a workflow engine, so you can distribute tasks of who should do what and when. And there is also functionality in terms of publishing. You can distribute reports to end users by email, being automatically generated by the system on a schedule, distributing information throughout the organization if needed. Also, one specific offering we have just released, I just want to mention, is that we also offer live reporting on Business One SQL. So there's a difference here. With the other systems, the traditional setup is we upload the data every night to the data warehouse. Then you report and plan on that data. For Business One SQL, there's a specific offering where we have thousands of fields available in an out-of-the-box connector. So this could be a quick way of starting the reporting engine just to get to know the product. So I just want to say that it is available, live reporting, but only for Business One SQL. We have about 3,000 customers globally. These are some examples. The point here is I want to show you that we have customers within basically any vertical, any industry, both healthcare, hospitality, financial services, manufacturing, distribution, etc., etc. Of course, retail as well. So if needed, I can promise you that we will have references or customers using the system solver for similar types of business that you have. What we normally do what I will show you today is that we provide you with a specific customized support for planning. So we can offer out-of-the-box system with pre-built templates, and also the strength is that we can customize them based on your requirement and your exact process. So what I will show you today is an example of a budgeting process where I first do some preparations. I then budget my revenues based on volumes. I then budget my costs in terms of payroll costs and OPEX and projects. And of course, at the end, I will do some reports based on the summarization of budgets, but also the possibility to report on actuals versus budgets. Since we're uploading the data warehouse every night, there is a possibility to have your running reports where you budget or where you report on actual versus budget on a daily basis. But this process that I will show you today is an example of what it could look like. So please remember that everything you see is customizable. We normally start with the scoping workshops with you to look at your process, your existing templates, if you are using Excel or any other planning system. And we could use that as a baseline when implementing solvers. So you can have 100% customized solutions based on your requirements. Also, just to show you, for consolidation purposes, we normally use the same platform, but with consolidation functionality. So we can offer a full multi-entity consolidation process with intracompany elimination, currency conversion, minority interest, minority ownership, etc., etc. I will not focus on that today. That is rather a separate demo. I don't have time for that. But if you're interested in multi-entity consolidation, please reach out to the partner and we will connect you with us and we can do a specific demo for that. So let's have a look at the system. So anyone using the system will work in a browser. So it's 100% web-based. It's built in a technology called HTML5, which means it works on any operating system, you know, Apple or Windows. It also works in any browser. I'm using Chrome, but you can use Edge or Firefox or whatever you prefer. So it's a generic platform that will actually work on mobile devices as well. The end users will log in. The system, of course, knows who I am, and based on who I am, I have different access in the system. For now, I am the administrator, so I can, of course, view and schedule and control anything from data uploads, etc. But that is not normally for the end users. But I just want to show you the connectors we have out of the box. So basically what we do in the system, you can see here by design and Business One HANA, is that we configure a connector for your specific ERP. We will schedule it to run every night. Once we have done that as a one-time task, we would schedule it, but it can also be run on demand. So whenever I click run, you can see that this refresh is actually being ran, uploading data to the data warehouse. So this is a way of using it. So for instance, in month-end process, you normally have a daily upload of the actuals and also the master data, which means chart of account, organization structure, etc., from the financial system. But when needed, you can actually trigger on demand an upload of data, basically a refresh from the financial system up to the Solver Cloud system for planning and reporting. So this is just very brief about the backend. I will not focus too much on that today. So as an end user, a user in the system, they will work in two different menus. One, to start with, would be the reporting menu. So let's assume we have actuals in the system. We also have budgets and forecasts. The Solver solution offers, of course, a report library. As you can see, I have many templates, anything from P&L to balance sheet to cash flow to operational reports, etc. These are then, of course, categorized. So if I am a user working within financial reports only, I would only see that category. My controllers would probably see controlling reports as well. And this is how you can schedule and set up the permissions, making sure that each user can only see his or her templates. In order to run a report, regardless if it is for input or output, you would click on it. It will open up. I would just minimize this. I would select my parameters. So let's assume I want to see the actuals for October. I would select that as a parameter. I would click run, and the data will refresh in real time from the data warehouse. So this means that any report that I use in the system is a definition. So as you can see, this is now populated with values, but whenever I click run, I'm refreshing the data in the report based on what's in the data warehouse. So it's a real-time reporting solution from the data warehouse. Any report can be fully customized. So this is an example of a P&L report where I selected an entity and a time period. So now, since I have selected October, the design of this template says that on the rows, I have my chart of account structure. So I have a revenue section, I have some COGS, I have some expenses accounts, etc. These can, of course, be expanded based on how you want to have your report layout. And in this specific example, I'm visualizing the selected month's values, the actuals, versus the actuals for the same month last year, calculating the variance, also comparing towards the budget for October 2021, calculating the variance. In these sections, I have the year to date, which means it's January to October in this case, with the same comparison. So this is fully customizable. It's just one example of how you could do it. And if you want, you can always, as an end user, right-click on any value and do a drill down. So by right-clicking, I would do a drill down to the underlying transactions. I would see the actual transactions that were aggregated, generating the value I was right-clicking on. So any value that is an aggregation in a report, regardless if it is an actual or a budget or a forecast, you can do a right-click and you will see the underlying details. So this is out of the box. I just want to show you very briefly how this report has been built, because it's essential to understand that for the super users, we normally train them for 1 day. They will learn how to build reports such as this one. So as a super user, I can click edit. This will open up the definition of the report using our Excel add-in. So basically what I'm saying is that anyone that knows Excel will learn how to build reports like this during 1 day of training. So once it's open in design mode, and you can see that I have a menu here saying Solver reporting. So basically the definition of the template is Excel based. The reason why I got several revenue accounts on this row was basically that the one that built it went into the data warehouse structure and then dragged and dropped account. So account, I would then go in and find the account description. On row 25, I have then filtered and specified that these should be all accounts specified as revenues. So you can filter on any type of account groups or account intervals, etc. I will not go more into detail than this, but this drag and drop design of reports can of course be used for anything. If you want to have a revenue-based module where you have products and customers, you can of course drag and drop price and quantity. Basically anything that's available in the data warehouse can be used for drag and drop, similar to what I have done with the chart of account. Also, the summarizations is the Excel sum formula. If I go down and calculate the profit margin, it's Excel formula taking the revenue minus COGS, and the profit margin is of course the profit divided by the revenues formatted as a percentage. So my point here is you use Solver for finding the information relevant, then you use Excel logic to calculate anything you want in the system, and of course also Excel logic for formatting, for displaying graphs, etc. So this is why it's so essential to understand that the report writer is just a definition of values that should be populated, and whenever someone clicks run, it gets populated with data. So one row turned into 4 rows because I have 4 revenue accounts. And this is exactly what happens in the web portal as well. Whenever someone has built a report, it will be uploaded to the portal, the report library. And whenever someone clicks run, it will be populated with data. The super user can run in Excel just to verify that the template is populating with numbers as expected. Once done, I would click upload report, and it will be uploaded to the portal for end users. So basically, I just wanted to show you that the definition of anything that you will see today has been built using our Excel-based report designer. So that is why, of course, you can build P&L reports, you can have balance sheet reports, you can have cash flow reports, basically anything that you would be able to do with Excel, you could build with Solver. Just to show you one quick example of what you also can do is, for instance, to have KPI-like reports and dashboards, also taking parameters, also being live, that whenever I click run, it's being refreshed. It's just about how you can be creative using Excel, in this case, as an interface, a visual presentation for the end user. So with that said, I have spoken enough or completed the reporting section, because what happens is when you go into budgeting is that we use the same report designer. So in this case, I will do my budgeting in 4 steps. I will start with some assumptions. Again, the template is of course built using the Excel-based designer. And in this example, I am the budget manager. I will set some assumptions, in this case for payroll related costs that will be used by the end users in the system. I will change February to only have 2 invoiceable days, and I will show you how that allocation key is being used at a later stage. So basically, anything is being inputted in the system. Whenever I change a value, I click Save Data. The values are being written back to the Solver data warehouse. And as soon as a value has been written back to the Solver data warehouse, I can use it for calculations or logics or summarizations in other templates. So step 1 in my budgeting process was to set some assumptions. So here are some examples. Step 2 would be to go into do my revenue section in terms of quantity sold to my customers. So opening up a sales-oriented template for input. In my examples, I will get a view of the customers I have and the products I'm selling. In this case, I'm a salesman doing my budget for one department or one sales unit, department 300. I'm supposed to do my budget for revenues in terms of how many do I think I will sell and at what rate. So assuming that I will sell 1,250 items at a rate of 350, these times each other would of course be 437,500. So here's another example where we're using straight allocation based on Excel logic. So basically I can control here what months I want to generate the revenue in and on how many months I want to split the total in. So this is one example where you can control, and of course I can select that I want all of this to be in May because that's when I believe or know that this deal will take place, where Advanced Paper will buy 1,250 licenses for my business program at a certain rate. Working my way down through this example, again, dynamic, of course, different sales reps will see different customers and products based on permissions and security. If I scroll my way down, I have some empty rows for input. So let's assume these are existing customers. I want to have some rows to enter new customers. This will have to be from a list, making sure that we can keep the data integrity in the system. So we don't want to have anyone entering free text fields that does not belong to any specific entity in the system. Of course, you can copy paste. In this case, I would just add a few dummy rows, one for each product. Just making sure that I get a few. Of course, I can do a bulk entry here just to get something in. I have to set a price. Let's assume all of them are 150. I can actually also use formulas. So if I know, for instance, that this is always 12% more than the other, I can use that. Not equal, it should be that. So formulas does also work. I will just copy this, have the same distribution. And again, basically anything that you can drive or calculate in Excel, you can input in a template. Scrolling down slightly further, you can see that the sum of revenues for each month is the summarization below. So if I scroll to the right, I can see that I now have a sales budget for the year, for me, of 89 million. It's of course the summarization of the monthly values, and each monthly value is a summarization of the items above. But you can see that this revenue has been distributed into 4 different revenue accounts. I am splitting the 8.2 into 4 different revenue accounts in the P&L. This is because we have an attribute on products mapping to different accounts. So if I change this one to a very high number, you can see that only one row, the top row, will be affected. So let's add 1 million. Oh, that was too high. So this is actually a benefit with such a system where you can have attributes controlling the actual business logic, while I, as a sales rep, am only interested in the target month by month and of course by year. Whenever I click Save Data, these will be written back to the data warehouse, making sure that this will link into the budget P&L for revenues. But I'm of course also storing my quantities and rates in the data warehouse, so you can have reports summarizing and also comparing what volumes have I budget for in terms of sales. That can be an input into purchasing or production, saying that we have a sales organization that expect to sell these quantities of these products regardless of customers. Well, that can be an input to purchase department of how many quantities do they need to allocate from your suppliers, etc. So please remember that everything that being written back into the system can be used for reporting. It's just about saving data and then reporting on data. Next step could be to do a payroll budget. I did the assumptions initially. The next step could be to have my department manager doing a payroll budget. In this case, I'm responsible for one department, department 100. If you have an integration to the payroll system, I would see a list of employees currently working at my department, and I have added some dummy rows of people I need to hire. I don't know the name of them, so I would just enter a comment or a title. I can specify that I believe or I know I need to hire this person in March. He or she will work a full time. That's 2,080 hours per year. You can, of course, also have an example. Do they work 100% or 50%? Also work with FTEs. You know, I have 5 FTEs for administration. I have 10 FTEs for sales with an average salary, etc. Everything can be customized according to your specifications. In this case, I will also adjust Emily that she will work half time. and she will actually quit in May for some reason. Second is these are my resources. That's step number one. The allocation of resources is being used here. Step two is to handle the cost for my resources. Let's assume everyone has a salary, a yearly salary. I can, of course, have a salary increase month. Let's add February for all of them, and let's add 2% for all of them, according to general instructions, except for Chris. So Chris will not get the 2%, he will get a raise of a fixed value. Again, just showing that it's possible to work with percentages, text, and values, not only by account, you can use it by employee, by product, by customer, fully customized. The existing salary per year plus an increase will of course give me an ending salary. So it's basically just that one plus the difference or change that I've adjusted. Given the new salary, my payroll budget is now completed for my department, because what the system does is allocating the yearly salary based on number of work days per month. And this is using another time period. So I will not see that my 3 days in February is coming into consideration, but you can see that this is not a straight curve. This is an allocation based on number of work days per month, of course, summarizing to 52,000. It is one way of showing how you can control allocations from another template. These full-time employees, their salary cost will be summarized on this row. And if I scroll down, I also have part-time employees. These could be consultants, where I have an annual workload that I expect to buy. Maybe I need consultants generating 12,000 hours. They will have a daily rate of $650. That was a bit high. So let's add this. Basically, I'm not working with annual hours and the salary. I'm working with annual hours and the rate, just to show you that you can calculate in different ways. These part-time employees will have individual costs by month, summarizing to total part-time on this row. If I scroll further down, you can see that my full-time salaries and part-time salaries are being related and connected to two specific salary accounts. But you can also see, as a department manager, I will have to be responsible for all payroll-related costs. You know, it can be taxes, it can be pension fees, it can be benefits, etc. All of them being calculated by the system based on percentages controlled in the assumptions template. So basically, when I store this, I'm doing several things. I'm saving the P&L section for payroll. I'm also, of course, saving the rates, the hours, etc. For my staff. And I'm also storing values related to personnel information, such as how many full-time employees have I budgeted per month. So this can, of course, be very interesting information. Once the budget process is completed, I can see that, well, I have different number of FTEs, because I take into consideration that someone will start first in April. They will start adding cost from April. I had Christine leaving in May, so her contribution to the cost will of course disappear. And all of this can be used for reporting, summarizing how many FTEs do I have per month. And this can of course be compared and also summarized throughout the organization. So there are many benefits working with driver-based planning, both for revenues and costs, but it will allow you for a lot of more reporting and benchmarking purposes. For instance, what's my average cost per FTE throughout my departments, etc. Final example for budgeting is, of course, a traditional other expenses that's account-based. You don't have to work on a driver-based budgeting process. Basically, I will have my accounts by rows. I'm still working for one department, in this case, department 100. I can change to department 200. And of course, we can have parallel users working in the same template, but for different departments. So you can have a true parallel budgeting process. In this case, I have two possibilities. I could either enter values directly in the cells as previously. I can, of course, copy paste this as well. But if I don't want to do that, we do have a built-in support for budgeting that could assist the end users to do something more powerful. So let's assume I want to calculate a specific account. We have a menu below that's called spreading and line item details. So I'm doing my budget for account 770, but I have the possibility to divide this into subsections of what we call line item details. So let's assume I have 3 vendors. I can here create line item details being fully customizable. This is free text, and if I enter a value, you can see that the sum of these will of course summarize to the account level, but it's actually a summarization of sub-levels. So if I work my way through here, I can do my custom budget being line item details, and I can actually even add a comment that this is a purchase of copy machines. So I'm now added a comment on a level that's below the main level because it's for this line item detail. And I can, of course, also comment on row level, saying these are 3 vendors, see line item details. So we have full support for comments on basically any level or granularity out of the box. When I save this, I'm of course saving both the aggregated value for the account, but also the line item details. So this is one way of doing revenues by volumes, cost by payroll, and cost by other expenses. Next step would be to package this into a workflow. So of course, the end users does not have to go into the budgeting library and find the template. Each user will get a notification saying you have something to do because the administrator has set up a workflow. And once I go into my individual assignment, I can see that I am working in 5 different ones. 2 has been completed, 2 are for approval. And if I am the manager, I can click on it and I can see the values submitted for my employees. I can verify them. So this will of course be the payroll template. And once I agree or approve, I have 2 options. I can reject it and send it back to the end user, or I can approve it. If I click approve, you will see that this template has now moved into completed, and I have 1 more for approval and 1 more to do on my own. So this workflow is an engine that's built in, and of course you can have an overview of the total workflow within your organization for all the users working in it. So you can have a very good overview of where are we in the overall budgeting and planning process. So to summarize, it's a live portal with reports and budgeting and consolidation templates. These are being structured in categories. The reports are, of course, self-service. So the end users can build, after 1 day of training, their own templates. The end user will work with budgeting and forecasting in our workflow. And all of these values that are being entered can, of course, be reported on a consolidated level. So just to show you one example, that would be the end result of a budgeting process is, of course, you want to view the summarizations of all budgets for all departments. So in this case, I'm not just viewing one department, I'm selecting a range of departments in my organization. Once I click run, I will in real time aggregate the budget values for anyone in my organization that has done an input. I'm only using budgets, I will make sure that I'm only aggregating budget values. And I P&L kind of setup, summarizing the total budgets by account. And of course, if I scroll all the way down in my P&L, I can see I have a budgeted net income for the total organization of 48 million, for instance. If I scroll back up, you can see that my product revenues can be expanded. So actually my product revenues of 6.1 million in March, maybe let's go to January, it's the same. It's being built up by the revenue template I showed you. The revenue comes from a combination of products and customers and can of course be visualized in this template. Same goes for payroll cost. I can see the list of employees that were being used in the payroll template, and anything else I can just right click and I would do a drill down and see the underlying transactions. So reporting is a way of summarizing values, in this case budget values. But as I said previously, there is no reason why you shouldn't or couldn't report on actual versus budget as well, if you wish. So we support multiple scenarios for reporting. You can have KPI reports on budget, you can report on actuals, and of course you can compare actual versus budget, like I did in the initial example. The budgets were being inputted in the system, would be the same for a forecast. So this comes from my budget templates, but the actuals comes from SAP that's being uploaded every night. So you have full flexibility for budgeting, forecasting, reporting, and consolidation. So going back to the presentation, my summary was that I showed you one example planning process, and I showed you how you, in this architecture, could work with both daily uploads of actuals from the ERP systems to the data warehouse, use that for reporting, comparing it with budget and forecasting being inputted in the system. And final thing I will show you are the Power BI dashboards that are live connected to the budget values and the actual values in the data warehouse. So this is an option if you want, and if you're using Power BI, we have a connector to the Solver Cloud Data Warehouse, making it possible to have a live view of the numbers in the data warehouse, of course, but it will also be a possibility in the budgeting and forecasting process to use this for what-if analysis. The final example is if you're doing your sales budget in Solver in terms of revenues and cost per each, you can have that. You can then have a Power BI dashboard saying, well, the summarization of my forecast is 8.2 million in Solver. Here, I can do some what-if analysis. What if I can increase price with 20% or increase the deal size with 10%, plus get some more qualified opportunities in? How will that affect my overall sales budget? So basically, by doing what-if analysis in Power BI, I am of course not changing the numbers in Solver. I'm just modifying or playing around with the numbers. Once I have a new scenario that I believe in, I have gone from 8.2 million to 11.6 by just making some what-if analysis and assumptions. I can then go back to Solver and actually go to the template and adjusting the revenue side of things if I want. So it's a two-way integration. We can go from Solver to Power BI, and then we can go back to Solver, adjusting the actual numbers to make it go from 8.2 to 11.6. So that is the integration we have for Power BI. I think I will stop there because time is running up. It was a high-level overview, and I'm available if anyone has any further questions.
Thank you, Matthias. Yeah, we'll be waiting for some questions, but we have one question that if the feeds that you are editing on Power BI for the budget, is it for all users or it's only for the, it is for all users actually, because each one will enter the budget, but is it authorized as well? So it
Yes,
can
good
be,
question.
it can be through authorization.
Yes, so you can have permissions and authorizations in Power BI, making sure that you only see your numbers, and you don't have to be a Solver user to use Power BI. So basically, you can have many users using Power BI for dashboards, and they do not have to have a Solver license, even though the data comes from Solver. So Power BI is separate, and we allow for anyone to view numbers in the Solver data warehouse using Power BI or Tableau.
Okay, the other question is if it is linked with Microsoft Excel on-premise and also 365 both, right?
Yes, correct. So any report, as I said, was built by Excel designer, and anyone, any viewer can always click export to Excel. It will create a snapshot and it will download, not this one, give me 1 second, a file. So you can always export the actual report, not this one, that one, by just clicking export to Excel. You can get a copy of it in Excel if you want to do your own analysis or modifications. Of course, this cannot be refreshed, but you can always export to Excel or also export as a PDF.
Yeah, but when you edit, you can edit it through Excel on-premise or on 365, Office 365, right?
Yeah, you need Office 365, that's correct. But the change and the design of the template is being done by the local install of Excel. So you cannot build templates like this using the Excel web-based interface. You need to have a local Excel, but that's included in Office 365.
Okay, and for the Office, and for the standard package, it comes with standard reporting as well. So if a customer wants to go with BI 360 and they want to implement it, is it straightforward or it has to be like and if you want to take some reports, so we can have all these reports out of the box, or no, we have to do this workshops in order to maintain the data and do these kind of reports?
Yeah, no, all the templates I've shown you are available in the solution out of the box. It's of course based on the structure in the underlying data warehouse. So they might need some customizations based on the specific chart of accounts for each customer, but all the templates are available out of the box.
Okay. Any other question, guys? Just wait for 1 minute. So if you have any question, just put it in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask it, please. If not, we will conclude the session. As usual, we will send you the recording by this week, and we'll send you as well all the recording for all the webinars that we did, with the presentation as well for Solver. Matthias will share it with us and we'll send it to you as well. And thank you for joining again. And we will, of course, be presenting now later on some other webinars. And we will update you with the schedule later on or for the other webinars, but it will be, of course, after Eid, and Eid Mubarak to everyone. So thank you, guys, and hope to see you as well during the next webinars, and stay safe. Matthias, thank you again, and we appreciate that you attended and present the system as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you everyone for allocating time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.